That is the best pointer you could have given, because I know I'm guilty of it, and so is the rest of my team, where we've not had that great communication with CASA, because you guys tend to do your jobs well, and it's the squeaky wheel that gets the grease. So a lot of times we're focused on problems instead of people who've solved the problems that they're dealing with. But I'll share, a couple of experiences I've had with CASA, where Hill Country CASA, for example, proactively reached out to my firm one time, because we're not immigration lawyers. We're family and child welfare lawyers, and told us, look, because of the domestic violence in your client's family, we can get citizenship or at least residency for this entire sibling group as well as mom. And it really provided us with an exit strategy in a case where at the time we got in, deportation was being fast-tracked. So them reaching out and just letting us know under the gun, even when we were first jumping into the case, really helped us out. But, in another incident, we had a CASA reach out to us and tell us, this kid is stressed. We're not allowed to talk about details here in this format, right? But, the kid is stressed, and we think she's going to run away, and somebody needs to get in here and get her some support. In that case, it was two siblings who were not having good communication. It was CASA who raised the red flag, got the ad litem working, really helped the rest of us speak to our clients about what to do differently. And when that kid took the stage in court over video on a big screen and laid out exactly what she was thinking, it was very clear that she'd had a sounding board to structure her thoughts and explain things to the court. And we all did exactly what CASA had suggested we do. And actually, at the end of that family was reunified and has been pretty healthy since then. So, again, you guys make a huge difference. Blair, from your perspective, what are some things that those of us in the legal community can be doing to support CASA's mission at a development level?
So, I think we talk about being advocates for our kids. Y'all can be advocates for us. So we are here. We are, of course, a nonprofit. So we do rely on the community's support to stay functioning. And so part of that is, I love hearing that you value CASA's on your cases.
Oh, yeah.
And I think just making sure that, share that with your colleagues at other law firms or in your personal life. We are also do a lot of outreach in the community. So all of us have our own networks of friends, families, organizations that we belong to, churches we attend, all of those sort of things. And those are all places that we would love to get the word out more about CASA and about the needs of the children that we're helping. We can't do it alone. These children are our community's children. So in some ways we're all responsible for their well-being. And at the end of the day, their success helps our entire community be strong and successful. And so when we look at it that way, I think that many people, of course, when they hear that children have needs, they want to help. But then when you also look at it from where do we want to be as a community in 10 or 20 years? Well, these are the children who are going to be making a difference in the community in 10 or 20 years. So how successful do we want to be as a community? And we need to think about that as we try to support these kids. We love to speak and have the opportunity to share our stories in forums like this, but also live in person when that is safe to do so, of course. And we're always available to have those phone calls. We absolutely accept financial donations as well. And again, we do use those financial donations not only to for our general operating needs, but also for direct support services for the kids. So, for instance, if we hear that one of our CASA advocates at one point reported back to us that her child was having back pain because it turned out that he didn't have a bed to sleep in.
Oh.
The placement was fine otherwise. It was a safe placement. The family was doing the best they can. He had been removed from one parent and placed with the other parent, and it was a good, emotionally supportive placement. However, they just didn't have the money for this to provide a bed for this child. We as the CASA organization were able to provide that furniture item for this child so that he wasn't sleeping on the floor anymore. You know, just things like that that these kids really need. And best case for so many of these kids is to remain with a family member. And if we can make that happen through some help with some of these basic needs, then we want to make sure that we get that done.
That's what I'm talking about when I was mentioning earlier that you guys are kind of the gap fillers. You know, that when things start to slip through the cracks, it's CASA that a lot of times is catching those needs. I mean, making sure that a kid has a bed instead of sleeping on a couch or something is a big deal to that kid, but often is not that big a deal to solve if an adult is asking for that help. So I tend to ask for CASAs a lot on my cases, and sometimes I'm hesitant because I know that you guys also have a lot of work to do. When should attorneys be, in y'all's opinion, asking for CASAs? Should we be holding back at some point?
You know, I think it's always better to ask, get the referral in. We do take referral cases. We cannot obviously promise that we have an advocate who's appropriate for that particular circumstance or available, but at least keeps it on our list. So as we train a new class, basically every month or 10 months out of the year, we have a new class coming in. We know that there's a child out there waiting. So you guys can help us by referring them. That you're helping us identify a need that we may not be already aware of. Because if you think about it that way, we get our cases through the court system. So we don't get them. We're not, going out there with CPS to find them. We have to wait till they are in a place where they can receive advocacy. So I would say, certainly I know that right now the need is higher than our current ability and capacity. And that's why it's so important that we continue to grow and do our part to reach more kids. But referring them to us will help us know how many are out there that we're not able to serve yet.
Okay, so now this environment under COVID has got to be a particular challenge for y'all. What kind of things, I know from my foster parents that they're struggling, for example. I know from my parents that they're not getting the visits that they would normally get because of social distancing requirements, lockdown orders, and so forth. How are you guys adjusting to COVID?
It has been a huge adjustment, like we were saying earlier, and we were kind of, I don't know, I guess if laughing is the right word, but we were kind of remembering, a month ago, it's been a month now since we have been on our working from home, and it really was kind of a, one day everything's at normal, and then the next day it was suddenly like, oh my goodness, we're going to need to work from home now. So from an organization standpoint, it's been quite the change. Due to, and then also just the evolving nature of the situation. When we first started this, I think all of us maybe naively were thinking that it was more of a couple of weeks and maybe we would be back to normal sort of situation. And that's clearly not the case. And so it went from kind of some short-term strategies where we even were having to look at everything that we were doing and can we continue doing this right this minute? Do we need to pause for a moment on taking new cases? We had to do some quick thinking and consulting with our Texas CASA and national CASA partners to see even how Marina mentioned our virtual training class. Well, how can that come about? All of our training classes in the past have been in person. Those we've had to look at how we can activate those volunteers in a virtual environment when they can't actually meet the children face to face to start with. So it's been challenging logistically in some ways. And then we've also, it's also been challenging on the front lines for our advocates to stay in touch with the children.
Yeah. Yeah. What are you guys doing to protect your advocates, and how are they seeing kids right now?
The short answer is we had to restrict the face-to-face visits for everyone's safety. We're complying, of course, with our local government's orders to stay at home and limit that interaction. We are an essential service under the city order that allows us to continue operating as a business, which is wonderful. Absolutely. Yeah, we can't, just abandon these vulnerable children in their time of need, which arguably they need more support right now. So one of the challenges is having our advocates maintain that relationship virtually when they can't go and hug them and let them know it's going to be okay. So we've shifted strategies to try to provide more resources for them to do so. We did have to put some protocols in place for their safety, and since children are, as you know, Joe, they're placed throughout our county and beyond. So they could be in a private foster home, they could be in a children's shelter, a group home. It just really depends on what's available and what the needs of the children are. So that's been challenging because not every place is the same. One foster home may have the availability to FaceTime or connect via Zoom or a video, while another home may only be able to take a phone call. So we've asked them just to do their best right now. A lot of them, as Blair mentioned earlier, are calling or video timing to read them a story, read a children's book, help let them know that things will go back to normal at some point, and that they're still there as their advocate. They're not going anywhere. Because part of what we see in responding to trauma for what these kids have gone through is you have to be consistent. There's been too many people in and out of their lives. There are too many inconsistencies and interruptions in their normalcy. That's the biggest challenge right now, is maintaining our mission to reach out and let our kids know that the advocates are not quitting on them, but things are different right now, and ultimately we will go back to seeing them and taking them out for ice cream.
Yeah, that's awesome, because y'all know April is Child Abuse Awareness Month. This is a month where traditionally our community is pulling together to raise money, raise awareness, and it's a big point in the year for us to be able to sustain our missions for the remainder of the year. And now with families on lockdown, is there a concern that we may actually be going backwards this month, that more kids are at risk?
Yes, absolutely. I think anytime that that schools are out, of course, our teachers and administrators are mandatory reporters for child abuse. So anytime that the children are not seeing those people on a regular basis, we do see after that a rise in reports of abuse once the children get back under those reporters' eyes. Like, for instance, after Christmas break or after summer break, we'll see reports, increased numbers of reports of child abuse, as well as removals based on child abuse and neglect cases. So, of course, we don't know what those numbers look like yet. We're still in the middle of it. But we are absolutely, unfortunately, expecting to see those numbers increase.
But what can we in the community do to support CASA's mission of protecting kids right now?
I think one of the most important things is we all need to act as if we are all mandatory reporters at this point. If there are any children in your life and that you talk to or regularly, try to video chat with them so you can see what how they're doing. Try to, while on that video chat, try to kind of look around in their environment, and you can kind of get a sense of how the household is running. Talk to their caregivers. If we can support the families and decrease a little bit of the stress that the parents are experiencing, we can remove a little bit of that risk factor. because I always remember back to when my babies were just born. I have twin 6-year-olds. And when I was pregnant and when they were born, you're in the hospital and all you hear from every nurse and doctor who walks in the door is, don't shake the babies, don't shake the babies, don't shake the babies. And in the middle of it, you're thinking, well, I just had these babies. There's no way that would ever happen, right? I would never, ever do that. But then you get home and they're both crying and you're trying to feed 2 babies at once. And you don't know what's happening. And my husband went back to work and I'm here by myself with them and the dog is no help. But you remember back to that. The nurse said it was okay for me to put them in the crib while they're crying and walk away.
And these are good points. So I didn't know you had twins, Blair. My wife and I have 7-year-old twins.
Okay.
And I definitely,
you've been there.
Right. Every parent has these moments of stress, though. I've talked to juries. I've talked to lots of parents. And everybody knows that there's a moment sometimes where a parent kind of loses it.
Yeah.
Maybe we regret speaking too harshly to our kids or, spanking them when it wasn't necessary. But every parent loses it. But, that moment at night where you're holding 2 babies trying to feed them at the same time. And I'm remembering, one of my clients getting fussed at for bottle propping, which you guys know, but other parents may not. Prop a bottle with a pillow because kids can choke if you can't get rid of the bottle. I'm going, well, how am I supposed to do this? Propping at some point, my arms get tired. So, I get it. And I think all parents have those moments. What are some ways that CASA, because you made a good point, can reach out, or that we in the community can reach out to support the parents to de-escalate problems and not just respond to problems once they've happened?
I think, like I was saying, just the biggest thing is just to see what the situation is. Maybe you do have a parent friend who you can tell is frustrated because they haven't been able to get to HEB for 2 weeks and they're afraid to go because their children have asthma and they really can't expose them to anything like that. Maybe you can have some groceries delivered to their house. Maybe you can do that run if you're not one of those people who are at a higher risk category. I think those are some real simple things. Maybe you can just sit there and have a conversation with them and let them vent to you. We all need those ears in our lives.
I think that's big, Blair. Because we used to always, my wife and I, Melissa, we would always offer people a break. Say, look, did you get out last month? Did you get a date night? Like, we can do it because we've done it. Give us a big group of kids and we'll make this happen. It's hard because nobody wants you to come over and watch their kids.
It's true.
It's in our house. But yeah, I think you're right. If we can reach out and just check in with people and give them a chance to vent, it's probably cool. Because I know my phone calls for my clients have gone way up in length, and it's not on my end.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. And to Blair's point, and really why we're here is to be a collaborative force. So if you're not able right now to support us with a generous donation or come and volunteer with us, if you're constrained in that way, maybe you can support one of the partner agencies that does help be a safety net right now for one of the families. So maybe you can go donate food to the food bank or another supportive service, because that's really what we're about. It's, we're not here to take anyone's kids away. We're here to help them thrive safely and in an environment that they can grow. And hopefully that is with a healthy parent. And if not, maybe it's with a healthy family member that's in a good spot. But regardless of that, and as you guys mentioned, whether they're your own children or not, there's always going to be those moments of stress. And right now, you can just feel it in the air. I know every grocery trip is stressful for everyone out in our community and beyond. So I think that's a great point, that we have to work together and be a part of that collaborative process so that these kids don't get forgotten or slip through the cracks.
And at the end of the day, if you do suspect child abuse or you're seeing it, please call the Texas Child Abuse Hotline. It's that's at the end of the day, we've got to keep these kids safe. So That number is 1-800-252-5400. And somebody will take the report, take all the information that you have, and decide if it needs an investigation or not. Because at the end of the day, we've got to keep the kids safe.
That's so true. And to mention, as you know, Joe, it can be an anonymous report if you're worried about that. And it is the law that we're out here reporting. Each citizen has that requirement to do the right thing. And if they see something, even if you're not sure, if it's a maybe and you're going back and forth, maybe it is, but I don't want to offend the family, I don't want to get them into trouble. That's why we have our investigators through CPS who are professionals that can assess the situation. So you're helping by being the eyes and ears, and let our system work. And that is partly how you can help CASA.
And we're going to be putting up reporting information when this video goes live for our viewers so that they can see that. And they should know also that you don't have to call it in and sit on hold, although often I think that's the best way to do it, so they can ask whatever questions they need to while they've got you. As a mandatory reporter, I've had to make that call. You know, I've had to stop clients in the middle of a conversation and tell them, I'm about to make this call. But you could also go online. And this kind of brings us to a good point to start wrapping up. So before we talk about exactly how folks can donate and support CASA's mission directly, is there any last things that you would like our viewers to know about child welfare, CASA, or Child Abuse Awareness Month?
I think it's great to know that we're still fully up and running and we're growing in our capacity right now. We're gearing up to take on more kids once things settle down with COVID. As we talked about, we know that our reports will start coming in and we're going to see an increase. So it's important to know that we're not slowing down. If anything at all, we're preparing to take more kids on during and after this crisis.
That's outstanding. I think a lot of people on the legal side and on the court side are trying to prepare for this, but we were overwhelmed to begin with, and it's why CASA is so important to us. So how do we, call you guys, go online, make that donation? What's the best way for people to support you guys financially as you're expanding to meet this challenge?
So please go to our website. It's www.casa-satx.org. We do have a donate page there. We have a couple of really great options. So depending on what fits in your budget, we have monthly donations. We even have this really cool thing called roundups, which is you put in your credit card, and every time you make a purchase, it just rounds it up to the next dollar, and we get the change. So that's a great way to donate. It's one of those things where at the end of the day, you don't really miss that 57 cents or whatever it is on your purchase, but it adds up to a lot for us. We also have a wonderful group called Champions for Hope, who commit to giving $1,000 or more a year. We would love for anyone to join that group, and that gift can be done on a monthly basis. And just so that y'all know, it does cost us right now about $1,200 to recruit, train, and support an advocate for one child. So that's a lot less than it costs for a child to be in foster care for a month. But and that's for a whole year, $1,200 for a year for a child to have an advocate. But it's still a substantial sum of money, and we definitely need help with that. But again, our website is CASA, CASA-SATX.org, and there's a big donate button.
Do you guys have any type of corporate sponsorships?
We do, absolutely. We can, hopefully, given that all of this settles down by the fall, we have this wonderful event called Gallery of Hope each year. And this event, it's called the Gallery of Hope because it is an actual photo gallery of families, children who have found their forever homes, whether that's reunification or through adoption. And their families have allowed us to take their first family portraits. And we put those pictures along with pictures of the children and their advocates up at this event so that people can really see the impact in the children's smiles that happens through this program. And so that's a one heck of a party, if I do say so myself. But it's a lot of fun, and we do have some great corporate sponsorship opportunities there, as well as just year round if you want to support at any time of year.
So on behalf of HOELSCHER GEBBIA CEPEDA PLLC, I think that question, well, I asked that question because I am interested. We support other programs like the SA Food regularly. I'm on the planning committee for a gala for Voices SA in the Children's Court, which we're rescheduling because of COVID. So I understand those challenges for sure. But anything we can do to help, we'd love to. And I am so grateful that you guys have come on as our first guest on HGC TV. And you guys are honestly the best first guest we could have, because what you do is so important in so many lives and such a big part of what HGC does. So thank you, Marina. Thank you, Blair, for coming and sharing this time with us. I encourage our viewers to look online, to use the website and support CASA, because they are ramping up to meet one of the challenges that honestly is scaring the legal community right now. Everybody in the child welfare community, everybody in the family law community is a little bit terrified of a flood that we expect coming any month now. So please donate, support, volunteer. If you're in the Antonio area, do some research, get involved with your local CASAs. They are throughout the state of Texas and nationally, making a difference in your community. What these guys are doing is important, and they are the often overlooked, unsung heroes to all the people who think we're working so hard in child welfare. But they are often the first people that the kids remember as being there for them. So thank you for tuning in to another episode of HGC TV. Before you click off, don't forget to press subscribe and to like this video. And until next time, have a great day, stay safe, and remember, no matter how big the challenge is, just like CASA, we can adapt. So thank you for being part of our community.